Hi there, I'm Becky Amble. It seems like there came my light again. I don't understand what's going on, so please bear with me. We will do the best we can. So I wanted to do something that I don't think I've done before. I wanted to tell you about this book. It's called This Call May Be Monitored, and you can see the author down here, Tom Vander Well. Tom is president of a company called Intelligentics, and they work as really their area of expertise is in working with customer service departments and whatever you call it, customer engagement. We have different names for everything these days, and that's what he really has the expertise in. What's fascinating is he spent enough time to record and listen to over 100,000 phone calls. So that pretty much tells you their commitment to understanding how the whole process works. I'm going to share a few things with you that I think are standouts from the book. And like I said, I don't think I've ever done anything like this before. So let's keep going here. And he and his organization have worked with a variety of industries, B2B, B2C, and different industries. So they have a pretty broad range of expertise. And the company's about 40 years old. So it's been around for a while. And you can imagine what kind of data they have after all those years. And one of the things that he says in the book is first he starts and gives you the story about how he got into this work. And it certainly wasn't what he was planning. And I think it's kind of fascinating because it sort of sets the stage. One of the things he talks about in the book is the foundation of quality assurance. And he says we need to go beyond assessing and data reporting. We need to get to the insights to really help people make the tactical action plan to better serve the customers. And of course, I totally agree with him that the most important thing we can do is talk to customers to find out what their expectations are for us, what makes them happy, what they're upset with, what their problems are, what their pains are. We need to understand that like the back of our hand. And so I love that that's the starting point in their process. Now, I wanted to share a couple quick things with you. He talks about the flow of QA in the book, and he goes through the process and he makes it sound so simple and covers what you need to do. And remember, it is a process. There are steps, there are things that you need to do, and he goes all through that. Another thing that I think is really important that a lot of times, probably a lot of us forget to do in our organizations and working with our teams is to talk about what is the difference between good and great? What do we mean by good? What do we mean by great? And what he says is the difference between good and great is in the details. And then he gives a couple different stories about professional athletes, about how they dissect everything and how they map out the play and most of you probably have some sports background, probably know way more than I do. But I remember in the football days, the X's and the O's and the diagrams about who's running here and the names of the plays and all that kind of thing. So keep in mind that that's a good analogy for us to use. And after a game, most teams are going to go back and watch the replays and dissect what worked, what didn't work, and how they are going to learn from that last experience. Just gonna keep going here and try to get through my notes. And instead of counting beans, he said, plant seeds of excellence that will grow your customers' expectations, or that will grow with your customers' expectations. I love that idea because so many times we look at data and we look at numbers, which are crucial. We need to have information. And yet sometimes we're driven by those numbers without truly understanding what is behind that and what is the most important. Not all numbers are things we need to dwell on. There are certain things that really move the needle for the customer, and that's what we need to understand. He says measuring quality takes effort. I think that's a good point as well. I wanted to share with you a quote that I like in the book on page 77. If you see this video after you get the book. He says successful businesses learn what their customers expect. Then they tailor every touch point to meet and exceed those expectations. I love that. And I think anybody that knows much about customer service and customer satisfaction would probably echo that one. He talks so many different ideas in here that, frankly, I thought, wow, this would be great for any team. just the way to engage and the way to phrase things and the way to say things. Sometimes, I don't know if it's just me, but sometimes there's a situation that's not going so well, and you need to know, how do you talk about that? How do you resolve that friction, that tension, something that's not working out? Maybe it's two different teams in your company, or who knows what. And a lot of times it's all in the perception and also listening and figuring out what is going on in that situation. Another part I like in the book is he talks about tech, and he said oftentimes tech is the tail that wags the dog. And how many times have we seen technology be the instant answer, the magic bullet, the silver bullet, the solution to all things? And oftentimes it's not, and that's where people go down the wrong path. I was talking to somebody the other day that works in ERP, and he said there are certain things that different ERPs are good at and not good at, and you really need to understand the goals and the objectives of every organization in order to figure out how to structure things. The same is true with all tech. We really need to know, what are we trying to accomplish here? What's our goals? What's our vision, mission? And then how does this tool support that, versus looking at the tool and going, wow, we got this great new tool, whether it be ERP or AI or anything else. We need to really understand, what are we trying to accomplish, and then how do we use the tool. And he talks again too about the human analysis and the human input, which any of us in AI hopefully have figured out that that is a crucial part. And using tech, no matter what it is, as a tool, it is not taking over, and the humans are still running the show. We still have the braids, we still have the innovation and creativity, so we have to drive that ship. Anyway, he talks about that too. And he says you need to commit to the journey, as in anything in business. It seems like everything is a journey. A couple things I wanted to share too. Near the end, he pulls together some ideas that he's covered. And he said one of the foundations is about listening, how important it is to listen to the customers in this case. And we all know, in working with customers or internal teams, we have to listen first. And he talks about quality, and he says when you're building quality, it's not perfection, it is the pursuit to build one another up. What a concept. I think that's really great. Measuring, call monitoring, and quality assessment. Again, you need to do that, and you need to really understand, what is it that you're measuring and how does it relate to the end user, in this case, a customer. But we also have internal customers and people on our teams. Morale and motivation, he touches on that, what gets people excited. And true motivation, he said, is born in meaning. I'll let you check that out. Three things that he wants for us to take away. I'm going to share those with you. First is, excellent requires intention. What a great point. And it really kind of goes back to, what are we trying to accomplish? What is our intention? Second point, he says, measurement is mercy, not judgment. And you need to do it with integrity. And then it reveals truth, and truth is the foundation of trust. And I love the fact that they're using data, they're using actual recorded calls and that kind of stuff. So they're not making things up, they're dealing with actual information. And faith and work are symbiotic. The way we lead, serve, and treat others is our testimony, he says. So those are some takeaways from the book. I think you'll find this call may be monitored by Tom Vander Well to really be a great book. And you know what? He comes from the customer service world. He also comes from the people world. And so the ideas that he shares and examples he gives and just different ways of saying things can apply to any team you have, and it can apply to your personal life. So you can even use this as a guide to principles for living your life. Check out the book. I think you'll find it insightful. You can grab it on Amazon. Thanks. Let me know if you get the book, what your thoughts are, and any ahas that you find from it. Thanks a lot, and we will see you next time.